Here we are, prepared to fight the final battle. But of course, before we begin, I'm going to show off all my equipment and stats and the like. I grinded to at least level 10 with all my magic, with the exception of Vance, because at that point I didn't even want to bother with him, in all honesty. So, Dante can be a mixed attacker, since, you know, he's got everything. He's got magic, and he's got a fairly good physical attack, what with the two Masamune, so he's probably going to be mostly a physical attacker. Lynx, of course, is going to be our healer, and probably our buff person, because buffs are important for this fight. Max here has some pretty good magic, actually. 99 intelligence, so he is fairly powerful with the magic, but I'm probably just going to have him punch the Emperor a lot. Vance here, kinda my weakest character. I mean, he's got some good equipment, but his stats aren't amazing. And again, I didn't bother with his magic because I don't really care that much. He's not going to use it anyway. And with that incredibly short speech, it's finally time to get a preemptive strike on the Emperor? Oh well, whatever. He's got 15,000 HP, 540 MP, 180 attack, 210 defense, 70 magic defense, 100 accuracy of course, 80 evasion. He resists everything, absorbs instant death attacks, and he's got the spells Blind, Curse, Dispel, Flare, Slow, and also his physical attacks drain HP. But he also has the signature move Starfall 10. So yeah, the Emperor can be pretty tough if you're not prepared for him. You definitely want a buff beforehand. I actually got kinda lucky, and I can put up my buffs, without being interrupted by him, which is good because, again, he is fairly tough, and while his attacks might not outright kill you, yeah, he is fairly tough, so you're going to want to keep up some constant healing, because he's usually going to be keeping up some constant damage. Everything is fine, just put up everything ever, including Berserk, because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Berserk, unlike other games, doesn't force you into only attacking. All it does is raise your all it does is raise your physical attack, so really there's no reason not to use it on the entire party. So yes, the Emperor, he's got no real pattern, and he doesn't really have a charge time for any spells, so he can just use Flare and his signature move at will. Speaking of his signature move, this is Starfall 10. You want to know what Starfall 10 does? I'll tell you what Starfall 10 does. Starfall 10 drops a fucking meteor on you. Just right onto the fucking battlefield. Just summons that out of nowhere, crushes everything, covers everything in hellfire, and does some pretty decent damage. I mean, I've got some pretty good resistance, but regardless. So yeah. And again, he can use that at will. He can use that as many times as he likes. I'm pretty sure I've had him use that 2 times in a row on me before, so yeah, he's the Emperor, so he does damn well whatever he wants. Now, if you're having trouble with this fight, there are potentially 2 different ways to go about it. One surefire way to go about it is to use the Blood Sword, because if you remember, the Blood Sword does drain HP based on the amount of overall HP the enemy has. And given the Emperor has 15,000 HP, it's going to take a lot of HP from him. In fact, you can probably end the battle in probably minutes, really. It's really not too bad. Now, the other way I don't think is possible in this game, and it involves the use of the Toad spell. Now, somebody on the forum did say that you could kill him with a Toad spell. I tested it with Max's Toad spell, but all he did was just absorb it, so it didn't work that way. There is a glitch in the NES version, which I tried here and it didn't work, where basically you use a relatively high level of wall which blocks any spells that are at that level or below it, like just blocks them completely. And then you use a lower level of Toad, because of course he'll have accepted the wall because it's a buff and therefore he won't reject it. You use a lower level, and while it normally wouldn't work, the thing about wall in that version of the game is basically it will actually let the full animation play out, and for the Toad spell, that actually includes the animation where the Emperor turns into a toad and then hops off the battlefield. So it does actually technically kill him in that version of the game. Again, tested it out, used Vance's level 1 toad spell, but nothing happened, so I think they fixed it in this version of the game. Unfortunately, I can't actually find anything else about the toad spell working in this battle because, well, I've searched, and I swear I read something about it ages ago, but I just haven't been able to find any sort of confirmation on that. So, regardless, that might not work, but still, Blood Stored still works like a charm, so if you still have that, I don't because I equipped it to Rickard, then it is a very good option. But of course, if you don't have that option, then hitting him a lot still works like a charm. It's still the tried and true method of killing things. And speaking of killing things, that's finally the end of the Emperor. We killed him once, he came back as the invincible Emperor of Hell, and now we've killed him a second time. And with that, the war is finally over. Both Palamecia and the forces of Hell are finished. And we're finally victorious. What's this business? Alright, we did it. Now let's break for lunch. What do you guys want to eat? I'm up for Italian myself. Except, you know, most of the population of the planet being completely decimated. Other than that, we're A-okay. What do you mean, strength of Kashwan? You're like the last living person from that kingdom. Yep, you sure did develop his character. And now you're stealing your dead brother's girlfriend. Good job for that. No, he's probably cursing your name. I think he's saying that without a hint of irony. Like, he doesn't even seem like he's joking here. And he's kind of stupid. You do realize I have 2 Masamunes, right? You'd be deader than dead if you tried to steal from me. Don't say pegged. Is it just me, or is this line really, really stupid? Proto-Ferris, go away. The better Ferris wouldn't say anything that dumb. Just leave. My dad's dead and I'm an orphan, but everything's A-okay. I mean, there's so many open job positions now that everyone ever is dead. Oh no, he's a spooky ghost! Ah! AKA everything. Okay, bye. Do I get a job? Can I do something? I mean, I'm kind of out of things to kill. I killed the Emperor of Hell itself. I don't really think I can go anywhere from there. No, probably not. Now we're kind kind of back on the subject of Vance willingly trying to take over the world, and yeah, things are gonna be pretty awkward amongst these guys. Dante, sick him! Bite his legs! Because I really don't like him myself, he's kind of a dick. And Vance goes off to maybe be referenced in Final Fantasy IV, possibly. Perhaps. That's just a theory, really. And so, the ghosts of everyone that died during their adventure haunted the heroes for the rest of their days, and they never knew peace. The end. Spell that with a capital, you jackass. Seriously, you're not giving the Emperor his proper respect. There's like, what, maximum 50 people left on the planet? I really don't think anyone's going to forget that. So, they remember the heroes, but not the thing they did? That seems kind of... that doesn't really make sense. Well, that's the end of Final Fantasy II. Geez, what to say about this game? It's a bit better than I thought it was, because on my first playthroughs of this game, I tried to grind up the 4th party member. That's not a good idea. You don't want to be grinding in this game, and the thing is, you don't actually have to. It's a bit more balanced than I initially thought it was, because the internet sort of taught me otherwise, that you needed to just wait around a while and get your stats good enough, but honestly, it's not really that much different from Final Fantasy I in terms of difficulty. Magic, however, is still incredibly annoying to grind. I don't think each spell has its own individual growth rate. It should, because, honestly, having everything take as much time as, everything else just makes grinding magic incredibly annoying, and there's no real point to it, honestly. It's just in general. I mean, this game's slightly more complex than Final Fantasy I, but honestly, doesn't really feel like it needs to be more complex. It's kind of needless. I mean, stats go up naturally, but I don't get why it couldn't just be a level up system, because most stuff just raises on its own. Because, agility raises on its own, and evasion raises based on agility. HP will, just raise on its own every once in a while. There's really not much of a point to it. Same with spells. On one hand, it does sort of negate the later problem where you have multiple tiers spells which sort of make each other useless, like fire is kind of useless once you get Fire, and it's especially useless once you can, use fire regularly with a good amount of MP, so honestly, I don't really get why it has to be so complex, other than they just wanted to try something new, which is respectable, but yeah. The story, on the other hand, I find is potentially pretty good. I mean, I think it kind of suffers from being the second game in the series, because it's kind of basic, but if this was released later, it actually could have had as good a story as the other Final Fantasy games, and I know it's Final Fantasy, so it's not like it would be amazing, but it would still be pretty cool. And I think that's probably the main strength in this game, is just the plot actually being damn near, just damn near pretty awesome. The Emperor himself, amazing. He is definitely my favorite villain, so I will give this game respect for that, and honestly, of the Final Fantasy games I dislike, at the very least, in the remakes they tried to improve this game and, make it easier to play, so that's better than Final Fantasy III, which doesn't really seem like they tried anything, and of course, The everything in this game is better than the everything in Final Fantasy XIII, so at least there's that. Overall, definitely not my favorite. It's my favorite of my least favorite Final Fantasy games, but I wouldn't really suggest playing it overall unless you really want to. It's just kind of annoying. Soundtrack's not the best either. Not a bad looking game, though, I will say that. Now what could that be? Next time on Final Fantasy II, we take on the optional scenario, Soul of Rebirth.